sometimes it seems like you have to just crawl just on your belly, just flat crawling through the mud just to get to the top of the hill. And I honestly believe I had to experience that in order to become a coach.
Are you ready to reclaim your life from exhaustion and expand the possibilities of what life can be? If so, I'm your guide, Evelyn.Energy, work-life geek and engineer-turned-resiliency coach on a mission to redefine how we work, live, and utilize our energy. Each episode, I dig deep with my guests as they share their story, spark, and strategies for developing our own unique work-life blend. This is Engineering Serenity. Episode 6. Change Starts With You with Danielle Francis.
So excited to be here. My name is Danielle Francis.
What industry do you work in?
I work as a professional coach, so professional training and services.
Primarily with individuals or also corporations?
Corporations. I also do some individuals, but now mainly focusing on corporations.
Do you like your career choice?
I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm very thankful and fortunate.
Where do you live?
Barcelona, Spain.
What culture were you raised in?
United States, New Jersey, African American / Caribbean culture in the US.
Do you have any hobbies?
Yes. So one of the things I'm actively into now is like a little bit of woodworking and making furniture. So I signed up for a class and I made like my first table not too long ago. Also, the desk that I'm like working on, I bought the tabletop more than a year ago and I sanded it and stained it. So that's something I really enjoy.
It's amazing. Like, I don't know. You can't see my face, but my face is just in awe. You're working 50 hours a week in the center of Barcelona, cha-cha-cha, building your own tables. I'm imagining some magical workshop somewhere in the city.
Well, not quite a magical workshop, but yeah, there's this workshop that I go to and it's quite dusty,
Okay. You ready for the hard question?
I guess.
Do you have any history of burnout?
Yes, unfortunately, I do. I do have a history of burnout.
Are you willing to share that story with us?
Yes, now at this stage of where I am. Absolutely. So I burned out probably about 3 years ago, at least 3.5 years ago when it began. And it's when I had started my first company and was not doing so well and just trying to figure out like how in the world can I make this work. On top of the company not doing so well, I had the financial strain that accompanies with being an entrepreneur, self-funding, trying to find funding resources. And it was just a really, really tough time. On top of trying to build my business, I was a hustler. Basically, I was here in Barcelona trying to make it work. And a lot of the things that I was doing outside of my business, which was a circular economy for children's fashion. So essentially, like we were working with sustainable children's brands and looking to build a circular economy by selling those brands and then having our clients and customers send it back so that we can resell again. So we had this idea, my business partner and we were trying to make it work as well as trying to get funding for it. And in the process of getting that, it just wasn't working. It just wasn't working.
So, how did you know you were burning out? What symptoms did you have?
There were a lot. So one of the things that happened is I was trying to make ends meet. So I started teaching English online. I was getting up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, teaching children through a company that taught English to children in China. So I was getting up, teaching, finishing at 3, then starting my business. working till like 9, 10, and doing that like Monday through Friday. And even on Saturdays and Sundays, I was like teaching English as well. I also was trying to do some Airbnb experiences here in Barcelona. I was also making business plans and pitch decks that I could do on like Fiverr. I was just doing everything. And I was just I was exhausted. I just wasn't there for myself, for my friends, for the partner that I had at the time. And I also was going through a depression at the moment and had no ways to actually get help in terms of like financial help at the moment. And so, how did I know? Looking back at the moment, it was not something that I was familiar with at the time, but
Yeah.
I just, my body was just giving out. There was days where I would just, if I didn't have to be present, I would just crawl in bed and just like cry and like sit in the dark for days at a time, uh, trying to figure out what was the next way to get out. And yeah, I was just foggy. I was sick, like physically catching colds all the time. And like my body was just in pain, like aches and pains, it seems. But yeah, it was a really, really low point for me to
So what
say.
did you do about that? You were in this darkness. You're sitting there crying, you're showing up and pushing yourself to just make ends meet. What did you do to get out of that spiral?
Yeah. Well, I think just with my personality, one thing I was just like, Danielle, you cannot stay here forever. Like you cannot sit here. I've always been a person who, like, if I see something, it's like, okay, I want it. I'm going to go for it. And a friend of mine said to me, why don't you start like mentoring? There's a mentoring program at our school that you can mentor other entrepreneurs. So I started mentoring. I also changed my friend circle. So I had a lot of friends that I was hanging around with that were just like teaching English. And I was like, this isn't what I want to do. I started connecting again with some older friends through my MBA program. Cause they say like you're the average of the 4 or 5 people that you're most closest to. And in a way, I kind of feel like it's true because it also helped spark my ambition again. So I started mentoring, number one, to help entrepreneurs avoid what I was doing. So I had a number of mentors that I was just like volunteering and doing. I saw that teaching English wasn't in my future. It
Okay.
wasn't giving me the skills that I needed besides being in front of a camera all day. But then also signed up for a course to learn to become a professional coach. So that also had to scrape some coins to get that together. But I just realized I couldn't just stay there. And unfortunately, I didn't have the financial means to get help because I probably could have crawled out faster. But it did take me some time to get to a better place.
So how has this experience becoming the mentor, doing the coaching certification shaped what you do now?
Yes. So sometimes it seems like you have to just crawl, just like on your belly, just flat crawling through the mud just to get to the top of the hill. And I honestly believe I had to experience that in order to become a coach. It allowed me to tap more into like my personal resources. It brought me more into like meditation, which are tools that I use now, not always with my clients because I work a lot with engineers, but it's helped me become less logical, which is what I bring towards the clients that I work with on an individual basis, but now also with companies, because I understand like they have a bottom line that they need to hit. So not only can I address them from the logical standpoint, but also address them from the needs and the challenges that their employees are facing, because I actually went through it, especially from a burnout perspective. So yeah, I can relate. Yeah.
So tell me more about what you do now. What is your spark? What is the thing that's really getting you excited right now?
So there's two things. So working individually with clients, I just really love working, especially with the logical thinkers, the structured thinkers, as I like to put it, because usually by the end of our time together, they're more aware of their emotions, why their emotions are important. One book that I constantly refer back to with my clients is Emotional Agility, I think by Susan David. And she talks about like emotions being like the signpost. And working with my clients, one of them, he was saying he actually like now uses the things we've discussed not only at work, but also with his children in terms of connecting with people and becoming more aware of their current situation. And it leads to like more conversation, setting limitations and boundaries, being more vocal about this is what I'm going to do to prevent burnout, as well as communicating like, hey, this is too much on my plate and checking in with their team to see, are you okay?
Yeah.
So I love seeing that from an individual standpoint. And then also with companies, helping them change the company culture. Um, that's even a larger impact. So that's something that I enjoy as well. It gets me excited.
How are you actively working to change company culture?
So when we work with a company, we don't just come in with a coaching program. What we try to do is partner with them with their existing learning and development. So if there's a program that they're already looking to do for like women development, giving people more of a voice. So typically they'll have already some type of like trainings. Also, will suggest to bring in their leadership to help facilitate that, to allow their employees to feel more comfortable and being more vocal. And the things that they're learning in these L&D programs, they usually come back and reflect on in the coaching sessions.
L&D?
So, oh, sorry. Thank you. Learning and development.
Okay. Nice.
But yes, we partner to help support and create the culture because coaching alone can support clients on an individual level, but to really create the culture, we need the company to actively engage as well.
Something I couldn't agree more with. We can only do
Mhm.
so much to help the individuals, but if the environment's not there to properly support, you're dealing more with a symptom than with the actual root cause.
100%, 100%.
So
Yes.
it's so good to have other people in the conversation about it. It always gets me excited.
Same here. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we do here at Be Coach.
Amazing. So you mentioned a little bit that meditation has become really important for you. Can you tell me a bit more like what does meditation mean for you? Because I feel like meditation is this really interesting idea that if you're not very much into it, seems very like you sit down, you try it, you do the app, but once you start practicing it, it takes on its own very different nature. So I love to get people's especially people who find it very helpful, especially in their recovery journey, to learn more about what is your take on meditation? What does it mean to you? How does it show up for you?
Yes. For me personally, meditation is the time for me not to think. It's that moment in the day where I can just be like fully present, fully aware with myself, my body, sometimes even just like my emotions that I am feeling. And it's not something that I used to do. Even now, when I work with clients, when they bring up meditation, I even say it's not necessarily for everyone because people say, "Oh, yes, I want to start meditating." Well, what are you looking to gain out of meditation? Like what is the purpose? And then also, people think meditation is just like sitting here and there's even dynamic meditation. You can walk. And actually, we meditate quite a bit and we don't realize it.
Okay. Explain this more.
So, you know, the moments when you are, let's say, driving to work and you just get there, you don't even know how you got there, or you're just like chopping vegetables mindlessly or just in the shower. That is a form of meditation when we're just kind of on autopilot mode. in those moments when you have the creativity sparks, that's our mind like calming itself down. And that's also one of the things I learned through my training, just a little bit into neurolinguistic programming. Those are the moments when we can tap into our creativity more. So when we're coaching, we actually sometimes bring our clients down from like this high energy level just to these like lower, calmer levels of energy to help them tap into their creativity. So meditation isn't always just these moments of silence. It can be moments where we're just at a lower energy level. And that happens like when we're just on autopilot mode.
Interesting. So, do you actively work to get in that low energy mode yourself?
Yeah, personally, I do. Usually it's a morning walk for me to just relax. Sometimes also in the evenings, I'll just take a moment and just sit. So there's various types of meditation. There's like a focused meditation where you can specifically focus on one thing, whether it's the touch or sight or sounds. There's meditation where you can clear your mind and just be present. So there's all types of meditation. And I do have a client says they're interested in it based on what I know. Perhaps I'll suggest them trying this route and send them some like readings and links. Yeah.
It's interesting. And it's fun to see how you're also blending that into the work that you do because it's such a critical part of what you do and what you've learned about yourself. I love to see how who we are as people blends into how we actively work as coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Because sometimes, people, they're so excited about a situation and they can't really think straight. And you just, by me lowering my tone, slowing down, getting them to slow down and take a pause also helps bring their energy down so that they can perhaps zoom out and see a whole nother perspective. So those are just ways that I bring that in, not necessarily meditation, but bringing the energy level down so that they can access the creativity part of their brain.
Oh, I can feel that from you. Just the way that you're speaking now, I can feel how you just could bring a whole room to this very chill, creative vibe. I could see that very much as a superpower for you.
Yes, I've heard that with some clients, just helping to bring them more calm, reflective moments versus this excitable time and such.
Amazing. If this conversation has intrigued them about who you are and what you do, and they want to learn more about you, what's the best way to find out more?
So they can find out more about me at my website, which is bcoached.com. So that's letter B, coached.com. Or just reach out to me on LinkedIn, Danielle Francis on LinkedIn, Francis spelled with an IS. So yeah, that's me. And I'm always open to connecting and just getting to know people.
It's the best.
Mm.
So, I want to wrap up today's conversation by asking you the final 5 questions that I asked every guest. Are
Oh,
you ready?
I think so.
Don't be so terrified. I promise there's no math.
Thank you.
So, what is your definition of wellness?
My definition of wellness is being in sync and being okay from a mental standpoint, um, emotional standpoint, and physical standpoint. So being able to check in with yourself and be well on all of those fronts. And it may fluctuate up and down. So wellness to me on those three fronts may vary from wellness from you. But it's important that whatever we do like aligns with us as well as our friends and family around us because we don't live in a bubble. So yeah.
You mentioned that when you feel well. So, how would you know that you feel well? Do you have certain signals or symptoms or way that you can recognize well for you?
Yes. For me, I feel more connected to my family and friends when I am well, when I'm out of sync and not feeling connected. Um, yeah, mentally, I'm just not fully present. Like I'm not doing the things that I need to do outside for like even like work. Emotionally, I just feel a little drained when I'm not connected, and physically, I feel lethargic. So for me, when I'm connected to my family and friends, that's when I'm at my best.
Thanks for that clarification. That brings a lot of insight into to a way to look at it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking the question.
What is your favorite method to recharge during the workday?
I have a hula hoop, and
Amazing.
in between sessions, because I live on the fourth floor, sometimes I get a little lazy to walk down or I walk. Yeah, so I have a hula hoop and I'll just like stand and hula hoop, and that's my way of recharging.
I
Yeah.
now need a hula hoop, I feel like.
Yeah, it's good. You just any little space and you just go.
Just go. If you could master one skill instantly, what would it be?
Learning Spanish.
Mm,
I struggle with Spanish, and I don't know if it's because of the way my brain is wired, but I can read, I can understand, but when it comes to actually speaking it, it's a whole 'nother animal, and I'm struggling with that.
yeah. As someone who also lives in a country where I'm a non-native speaker, I recognize that struggle and the wish to instantly be able to assimilate that.
Yes, yeah, like, so certain conversations, I could do it with no problem, but if I had to do this conversation in Spanish, I'd be stuttering.
It'd be a little more of an interesting interview for me. I'd be like, "Mhm, mhm." There'd be a lot more
Mm.
smiling and nodding.
Probably on my end too, I'll be smiling, but you would not get the personality at all.
Which would be a pity. What are you geeking out about right now?
I guess I've been geeking out on this probably, like, for a year, Star Trek. I've been watching old episodes, like, starting back from the beginning, well, not the late '60s, '70s Star Trek, but pretty much the '80s and '90s Star Trek. I've been watching that for a year now, and I just love Star Trek because a lot of the challenges that we're facing in the world today, they've highlighted in the '80s and '90s on Star Trek.
Oh, that's an interesting parallel that you're seeing there.
Yes, yes, we can talk later because it's very, very
Well,
polemic.
we started a Star Trek night in my house a while ago. So every Monday night we watch Star Trek and we're watching it in sequential order of the Star Trek series. So we started with the 80s and 90s on Enterprise,
Mhm.
and now we're in the 60s with Captain Kirk. Oh no, we had to watch the new one on Netflix in the middle because that's actually in the middle of the series. So we're moving right along, but I can appreciate the geekiness. Oh, it's fun to see the world parallels already in the 80s and the 90s.
Yes, yeah, it is really interesting. Yeah, if we just would have listened to Star Trek, we would probably be a lot better.
I think that's going to be your show opening quote, by the way.
Yeah.
Uh, so imagine a world where you have achieved the optimal work life blend. Describe your typical day.
Well, my typical day, I would wake up and either go for a walk or go to yoga class, which is something that I already do most days. Um, and then following that, I would have a call, possibly either with clients, like coaching clients or other work related. Then I'd be able to take a break during the middle of the day and go for a nice long walk in a flat that has an elevator. So I won't be so demotivated. Then I'd pick back up and with work, possibly with some like writing related to work. And also, sometime during the day, I'd have some time for some personal development, whether it's um, learning something new for me personally or for work related. And then in the evening, I can just kick back, relax, go to like woodworking workshop or just meet my friends And my total hours a week probably, yeah, would maybe be closer to like 30 to 40 than 50 hours of what it is now.
Amazing. Thank you for that example.
Yeah, yeah,
And
thank
thank you for
you.
the conversation. I've had a wonderful chat today, and I've learned all sorts of interesting bits and bobs and loved learning more about what you do and how you are supporting the conversation and changing corporate culture with Be Coached. And as we wrap up, what is the one thing you want the audience to take away from this discussion?
The one thing, let's see. I guess the one thing is that change starts with you. So even when I was going through that struggle of burnout, I knew nothing was going to change if I didn't do something. So I didn't have the resources, but I knew that I had to do something to change my situation. And whether it's at a company or your personal life or your work life, it starts with you and it takes time. It's been years for me to get to this point where I'm thriving instead of just surviving. And it has to start with you changing first.
Intrigued or inspired by today's episode, but forgot the details? Don't worry, I've got you covered. Visit engineeringserenity.com for a complete summary of today's episode, including timestamps, links, and other resources for your adventure. Wishing you strength and serenity, Evelyn out.